Well, it's a big show.
Welcome to the Fade Route
It's a big bad show tonight.
with DNZ.
Yeah, it's a big show.
Here are your hosts,
Crack it up, turn on them lights.
DNZ. Welcome everybody to this week's episode of the Fade Route with DNZ. I am Z, and we have a huge show for you. A mammoth show, a king-size show. We have college football coaching changes. We have the state of the Seattle Seahawks and the Washington football team, as well as whether or not there's anybody who can challenge Steph Curry, the MVP of the NBA. But we are going to start with the weekend that was in New York sports because it was relatively big. The Jets, kudos to you, D. The Jets beat the Texans to move to 3-8 on the season, 21-14. It was a slog to sit through. Zach Wilson did not look like he was ready for prime time, but he got the job done. And there is a little bit of a pin in the Mike effing White talk, at least for now. The Giants canning Jason Garrett, bringing in Freddie Kitchens. Did they light the scoreboard up? No, they did not. But they still got the win against the Eagles, 13-7. So we'll see what they are moving forward. This really exposes the Eagles, in my opinion. They're a pretender to the throne. The Rangers are off to an amazing start. They're 14-3 on the season, even with the COVID postponement at the UBS Arena, because the Garden because of the outbreak on the Islanders. That is certainly an issue that needs to be monitored. And did you know that we have a playoff team currently in New York? NYCFC, that is right, the boys in blue knocked off the Supporters Shield winners, the New England Revolution, in penalty kicks just last night. 2-2 to penalty kicks, and then 5 straight in for NYCFC. They advanced to the Eastern Conference Final, but they will be without Golden Boot Award winner and top scorer in the MLS, Tati Castellanos. So it will be an uphill climb for the lone playoff team in New York sports. And here he is. I've known this guy since our days on Carousel Shoes, flight crew through and through, the last QB in St. John's history. What's up, D? How's it going, man?
Yes, it was quite a weekend in New York sports, and even last night we had the Nets taking on the Knicks, and it went all the way down to the end. Nets prevailed with 2 foul shots, but the Knicks were in it all the way, and Nets, of course, are ahead in the Eastern Conference, 15 wins, 6 losses, and the Knicks have come back to reality and are closing in on being close to 500. But for the most part, all the teams in New York were competitive, even the Buffalo Bills, over the course of the last 5 days. So, yes, very impressive couple of days in New York sports.
Absolutely, and the capper on it all might be the Black Friday spending spree that I didn't get to with the New York Metropolitans. Starling Marte, Mark Canna, Eduardo Escobar, and the big fish, old two-color eyes himself, Max Scherzer, is a Met, signing a 3-year, $130 million contract with an opt-out after the second year. So Marcus Stroman is close to, or if not already signed to the Cubs. So that's a little bit of breaking news. Javi Baez signed with the Tigers yesterday. Noah Syndergaard had already gone to the Angels along with Aaron Loop. But with these additions, where do the Mets go from here, D?
I mean, you must be You must be smitten right now, right? Are you smitten like a kid? I mean, listen, I'm not gonna put any rain on your parade. I'm not gonna pop your balloon, but I'm gonna be crazy here. It's gonna sound crazy. I think they should trade DeGrom. Trade him. I bet the Yankees would take him. I bet the Angels would take him. I bet Toronto would take him. Get 2 players and a pitcher, and let's move on. Because let's be real, this Scherzer thing doesn't work unless they got a number 2. They gotta have another guy. So I'm hedging my bet, saying that DeGrom's arm trouble that started last year is going to continue. I can't have 2 guys with arm trouble because, let's be real, Scherzer finished last season with a dead arm. He's also 37 years old. He's the same age as you and I.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, they went and they bought all the shiny toys, right? Same thing the Rams did. Seems to be what's been going along lately, but they need a Rizzo. They need a Bryant. Maybe even a Freddie Freeman. I forbid that happens. But they're still a little bit away from unseating the Braves from competing with the Phillies.
Freddie Freeman's getting fitted for pinstripes as we speak. I hope you realize
right?
that.
He is.
He is.
I mean, and the problem is like, I see both sides of it, right? And from what I gather, he wants a 6-year deal. That's what I'm hearing. He wants a 6-year deal. And number one, the Braves don't want to give him a 6-year deal. But number two, the Braves are also waiting to find out what comes with the new agreement, the new player agreement, the new contract. And you wonder, the Yankees have not gotten involved at all yet. And is this the guy that they're going to fork over, probably 130 to 140, maybe upwards of 150 mil?
Well, I mean, you can do worse. Freddie Freeman, he is a franchise player. You know that, and being a Braves fan. But that would significantly weaken the Braves and definitely help the Mets' chances. Now, you did bring up something interesting that we need to discuss, in that Major League Baseball is on the verge of a lockout. We have T-minus 3 hours. At the stroke of midnight, the players are getting locked out. It goes without saying. The meeting between Tony Clark and Rob Manfred lasted 7 minutes. 7 minutes in heaven? Hardly. So it's a fait accompli that this is getting shut down, which is why owners are spending this ridiculous amount of cash, and players are just trying to gobble up whatever they can get before the CBA expires. But specifically to the Mets, adding Starling Marte it's a great addition because you're losing Conforto. You're not really losing much.
See ya.
Yeah, you can go. Goodbye.
Good riddance.
But, the Yankees can use an outfielder.
You don't want the qualifying order for good. See you later.
That's fine. Starling Marte can play center field. He can play corner outfield. So you can move Nimmo out of center field if you want to. That's fine. Mark Canha can play both corner and outfield positions. He can also play first base. So that makes a guy like J.D. Davis or Dom Smith expendable. If they decide to add the DH to the National League as part of the new collective bargaining agreement, you can move Pete Alonso into the DH role and rotate these guys through if you can't find a suitable trade. So there's flexibility there. Eduardo Escobar can play multiple positions. I like these moves. Ultimately, Starling Marte is a big fish. Canha and Escobar are not. Scherzer is the big reel in, but you hit the nail on the head before. I'm troubled. I'm a little troubled by this. Not because he wanted to come to the Mets and, the Mets have, some sort of curse or something on them, but he just had a dead arm. This happened. And basically,
he couldn't play in he couldn't play in the NLCS. He couldn't finish.
No, he couldn't pin it. He couldn't post last year. So that definitely gives me a little bit of pause. And I get why you'd be excited. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic. Because you bring in a 37-year-old guy. I've said this before about Max Scherzer, and you kind of rebuffed me a little bit. Because you said for this guy, you make that deal. But you said that before his arm went dead. So I am cautiously optimistic, but I'm definitely, I'm a little wary. The appeal of it is having a Scherzer and a DeGrom together.
You need it, yeah. You need two. You need a 1-2 punch.
You definitely do. But now, as the Mets are seeing, you also need to fill out the back of that rotation. Carlos Carrasco, another year away from surgery. Maybe he'll be a little bit healthier. Still slots in as a 4. Is Tyler McGill a number 3? Is David Peterson a number 3? Is Joey Lucchesi going to be that guy? Those are all depth players, like quadruple A, bullpen kind of swing people. I need another guy. I need at least one more if I'm the Mets. And they lost out on the opportunity to bring back Marcus Stroman, because Stroman would have been one of the best number 3 starters in baseball.
Wait, can you say it again? Can you say it again about Marcus Stroman? Because you were hating on him last year.
Well, I don't like him as a pick, but as a number 3, he's not an ace.
I don't personally care for him, but he could be my number 3.
Right. You can be my number 3 anytime. Bullshit. You can be mine. So,
all 5'7" of him.
Right. He slots in very well in that role. I think he's a fish out of water trying to pitch it like an ace. Taijuan Walker. Is Taijuan Walker a number 3? 3, 4, cuspy maybe. You got him for one more year. You have depth available, and we're going to talk about this with the Yankees later. Are you going to go bring in a guy like a Matt Boyd, who was non-tendered by the Tigers? Are you going to go, hunting for Danny Duffy? Are you going to bring in, a Mike Fiers or a Fulte? You're familiar with Mike Fultonevich. Would you want to have a reunion with him?
No.
So, the starting pitching market, especially now that Kevin Gausman is in Toronto, that would have been the guy that would have been a solid slot in. If you're going to lose Stroman, I love Kevin Gausman, but you're not going to get him. The Mets need more. I'm thinking about Dennis Green. I'm not ready to crown their ass. Ready to crown
them. And then for me, it's like, I love Freddie, and what he meant to the Braves for the last several years is amazing. But the other part of me says, okay, we won the World Series, and he's 31, 32. We have Acuna coming back. Riley turned out to be a stud. Ozuna, I believe, is coming back. Albies is there. You go, if you lose Freddie Freeman, but then you go get a Chris Bryant, you go get an Anthony Rizzo. Am I happy? No. Can we be a wild card? Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Last year they only won. They got to the playoffs because they really turned it up in August. They were playing like shit up until then. Is your hair thinning or is your hairline receding? Scalp micropigmentation will fill in the areas where your hair is missing by creating a short buzz cut look. Micropigmentation is a non-invasive procedure that will create the illusion of hair follicles for 7 to 10 years. For people with alopecia, this could be a permanent fix. For people with scars on their scalp, this is a great way to camouflage a scar. Don't lose confidence or feel like you need to wear a hat wherever you go. Marquez Studio is located in the Bronx and is open for all your scalp micropigmentation needs. Consultations are free and appointments can be made any day of the week. Get your hairline back with scalp micropigmentation. The techs at Marquez Studio have over 30 years of hair cutting experience and can assist you with all of your questions. Call to schedule a consultation today, 646-221-8888. 8728. You can also visit them on Instagram at Bronx Marquez to see their gallery and view all their satisfied customers. Again, that is Marquez Studio, located in the Bronx, New York, 646-221-8728. Moving on, another team playing like shit, the Seattle Seahawks. They lose Monday Night Football to the Washington Football Team. Russell Wilson and company not able to get a conversion on a two-point try to send the game into overtime. The Seahawks offense has struggled all season. Crazy, because last year Brian Schottenheimer was there and they were doing well. So I don't know what that means. Seemingly unable to get first downs at times, and they're seemingly unable to even score in games. This looks like the end for Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll, right? In Seattle, right?
Without a doubt. One of them, if not both, and maybe even John Schneider, something needs to change in Seattle. You're looking at it at their team stats, and granted, these are skewed. I'm not going to lie. These are skewed because you had how many weeks of Geno Smith, who did a representative job.
He did good. He was good.
He did representative. He did what a backup should do.
They didn't lose those games because of Geno Smith.
No, they didn't. I'm not saying they did, but he also didn't. He wasn't giving you a superstar performance. So he was solid, but unspectacular.
But the other part you got to question is what's wrong with this team, right? They have arguably the best linebacker in football, maybe the second or third, top 3 linebacker in football, right?
Mm-hmm.
They have 2 extremely good wide receivers, DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett.
Mm-hmm.
They have Russell Wilson, who can throw, he can run, he's a competent quarterback, he's a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So what are we blaming this on? Are we blaming this on the run game? They're not able to score.
They can't score because they can't establish a run game, and Russell Wilson is running for his life. That has to do with the offensive line. And that goes back to the Dwayne Brown thing, where Dwayne Brown was looking for more money and Russ was trying to get him more money, and it didn't really work. But now Russ, I think, is going to slowly submit the list again of teams that he would prefer to go to. But I really think it's a combination of factors. It's the offensive line, because without a stalwart offensive line, they can't run the football. Never mind, they couldn't run the football because Chris Carson is hurt, and he's always hurt.
All the time.
So they signed Adrian Peterson to their practice squad.
I saw that.
Very interesting. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No love for Todd Gurley. No love for Le'Veon Bell.
No. But Adrian Peterson gets another shot. This team is done. And I don't understand the move. But if you can't get pushed on the offensive line, your run game doesn't go anywhere. And if you can't keep your quarterback upright, your passing game goes nowhere. So offensive line is definitely up on the list.
Yeah,
yes, Bobby Wagner is good. I will not dispute that Bobby Wagner is possibly the best middle linebacker in football. But what else are you surrounding him with on defense? Jamal Adams is a safety, but he's a linebacker. He plays like a linebacker, and he doesn't even really tackle. He just likes to hit.
First time in his career, he has multiple interceptions in a season, and that pick is now a number 5 pick overall for the New York Jets.
Yeah, unbelievable. And, 26th in passing yards, 25th in rushing yards, 25th in points, 26th in points against. And, Seattle is just, they're swirling. They're swirling, man. And there's a lot of salary cap issues got tied up. You have, Pete Carroll's been there for over a decade. So maybe it is just a new voice, or maybe it's, maybe Russell Wilson just needs to move on to a better situation right now. Because, it's great that you have Metcalf and Lockett, but if you can't get them the ball, if you can't stay upright, you're never going to win. So
if you go back to the beginning of the season when Russ leaked the names of those teams he'd be willing to play for.
Mhm.
If you go back in time, do you think the brass at Seattle makes that deal? They make that trade. They get rid of Russ.
I think they maybe pull the trigger with the Bears. I don't necessarily see. I mean, the only way it would work with Vegas is if they were trading Carr for Wilson, and I don't want to invest in Derek Carr if I'm Seattle. If I'm trading Russell Wilson, I'm committing to a rebuild. I'm not bringing in a 31-year-old quarterback, a 32-year-old quarterback, trying to make it work. If I'm Seattle and I'm making this trade, I'm calling the Giants. I'm looking to get Daniel Jones, or I'm calling to get Justin Fields, or I'm calling, just maybe I could pry away Jalen Hurts. So, something like that. I'm making that kind of move. I'm not bringing in Derek Carr. I'm not going to bring in a James Winston. I could have signed James Winston as a free agent. So, if I'm John Schneider, I would have thought long and hard about making that trade because, this team is going nowhere fast, and I think he had to realize that it was going nowhere fast because it's been trending downward for a while. But let's talk about the other team on the field, right? The Washington football team is, quietly getting close to 500 here. They're second in the NFC East. Currently, they are in the wild card hunt. They have a legit shot here?
Well, they control their own destiny. They have 4 games against division opponents left. But I only see one team coming out of the East. I think the division winner is going to come out, and that's going to be the Cowboys. I like the wild card teams to come out of the West and come out of the North. The Vikings, potentially the Rams, 49ers, or Rams or 49ers. The Cardinals will probably lock up the West.
Yeah, that sounds about right. But, I think they'll be in it. I really think that you and I may disagree on this, but I think they found their quarterback, at least for the foreseeable future. Taylor Heineke is playing his ass off, so he's become a folk hero. He's become a legit folk hero there. And then you couple that with Gibson and McLaurin, you have a potent enough offense that you can contend. It was the defense that's been letting you down, right? Montez Sweat, Chase Young, both hurt, both couldn't get to the quarterback when they were healthy. So that was kind of a disappointment. They're clawing their way back in. I'm saying there's a shot. I'm not saying there's a certainty because you have Raiders, Cowboys twice, Eagles twice, and you end at the Giants. So realistically, you could go 4-2 in that scenario. You definitely could. I don't see why you couldn't.
I don't think Taylor Heineke's the quarterback of the future. I think it's cute what he's doing now. He's 6 feet tall, and you can tell when he throws the ball downfield or he throws those deep outs, the ball's up in the air too long. He needs to put some zip on his passes, and I just don't think he has the ability to do it. But there's going to be a market next year for quarterbacks, right? We just talked about Russell Wilson. He could be a Redskin. Derek Carr could be a Redskin. There's going to be guys out there. They could draft a quarterback. We don't know what's going to happen with Tua down in Miami. So I think it's a short-term fix for them. And Ron Rivera really just focuses on having a quarterback that doesn't turn over the ball. And that's what Taylor Heineke's able to do. But sometimes that can only take you so far. So
I mean, an effective game manager can take you. I mean,
look at what Jalen Hurts is doing. Look at what Jalen Hurts. I mean, they lost this past weekend, but I mean, he hasn't thrown for more than 200 yards since they played the Raiders earlier in the season. It's basically they run the ball, keep the game close, and they do whatever they have to do to win. Same thing with the Indianapolis Colts. I keep saying I really like their team. I don't think that's a team you really want to face in the playoffs. They run the ball effectively. They almost beat Tampa this past weekend.
They did.
They were in position to win that game. They gave Tom back the ball with too much time. One day someone's going to figure out that you cannot give this man the ball back with more than a minute left in the game. He goes downfield, he puts them up, right? And then they come all the way down. At the end, they run back the ball all the way to, I think, the 30 or the 25-yard line. You're like, wow, they really have they have a chance here. And it didn't go through, but they're just a team you're not going to want to face in the playoffs. You don't want to face those teams that can run the ball, play sound defense, and don't turn the football over.
No, you don't. Because at the end of the day, they're not going to beat themselves. And you're seeing that with the New England Patriots as well. They don't beat themselves. And the way Taylor Heineke is running this Washington offense, he's not really putting himself in a position to beat himself. Much like Alex Smith, his predecessor. Right? I think that there's something steadying about that. You don't necessarily need to be the flashiest quarterback. You don't need to put up the biggest arm, but you definitely, you need to have some semblance of smarts. And he's shown that he's got some acumen. And that, you know what? The most important thing about this is that he's got the locker room. Right? That I think those guys go and they play for that guy. So there's something to be said about that. Like we were talking about that with Mike White, right? I mean, granted, it was 1 week, but he had the hearts and minds of that team.
He did.
And that definitely goes a long way in a professional locker room. Looking to break into broadcast media, web development, social media marketing, or filmmaking? Then CSB is the program for you. From day one, you'll be trained hands-on by industry pros like friend of the show Rob Adams, whose goal is to get you trained and get you working in months, not years. CSB offers 8 and 16-week programs in small class sizes designed to give you the personalized attention you need. If you can make it in person, there are 5 East Coast locations. If you can't, they offer virtual classes too. How great is that? And once you graduate, you become part of the alumni network that gets you to the front of the line. Trust me, I'm an alum myself. Go to gocsb.com today, request more info, set up a studio tour, and who knows, you may very well be on your way to a career in broadcast media. That's gocsb.com and tell them Z sent you. gocsb.com. And speaking of locker rooms, I'm sure that the Michigan locker room got trashed due to the celebration as Jim Harbaugh and the Michigan Wolverines finally beat Ohio State 42-27, advancing to the Big Ten title game against Iowa. So will a win guarantee Michigan a spot in the college football playoff, or is the Big Ten going to get shut out?
Yeah, I mean, so the rankings came out, was it yesterday or 2 days ago? We got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Alabama 3, and Cincy 4. Michigan definitely deserved to move up to 2 after that victory. That was a big-time win over a big-time school. We're going to see what happens because this thing has a possibility of shaking up. Because if Alabama loses to Georgia, I think Alabama's out, and I want Notre Dame in, mainly because Brian Kelly left to go coach for LSU. I want Notre Dame in the 4. If Michigan and Alabama lose, I think Cincy's got to move up, and Oklahoma State's got to get in, and then Notre Dame is in as well. So a Michigan loss would throw this playoff in disarray. And if Georgia loses, I don't think it really means much. I think Georgia would just maybe drop a spot, maybe even just stay number 1 and move Alabama up to 2. But it's definitely an interesting year because we're going to get finally a chance to see other schools in this thing. Like, we're going to have a chance to see Oklahoma State. We're going to have a chance to see Cincy. And really, I would only want to see Notre Dame. I want to see Notre Dame in it just because Brian Kelly's an asshole.
Well, Robert Saleh also had a very interesting story about Brian Kelly as well. So we'll get to Mr. Kelly very soon. But kudos to Michigan for finally slaying the giant Have a day, Hassan Haskins. 28 carries, 169 yards, 5 TDs. 5. That's an impressive performance right there. If Michigan wins, if they beat Iowa, you got to think that they're going to be in it. You definitely think that they're going to be one of the higher seeds too, because if you think about it, like we've said before in the past, this is a television show. So you are trying to get eyeballs to the TV. Notre Dame moves the needle. Alabama moves the needle.
The only problem,
Cincy doesn't move the needle that much.
right? But the only problem is if Alabama beats Georgia, you gotta move Alabama to 2 because Georgia's number 1. They were undefeated. You beat Georgia in the championship game. Michigan's win over Ohio State, it doesn't equate Alabama beating Georgia. So that's the only situation where I think Michigan would drop. And man, if they lose, then they're definitely out.
Oh no, they're done. No. They are definitely done. But I mean, Notre Dame would be a great option. Before Oregon went off the rails, Oregon would have been an interesting choice. But you know, I think the
Why do you like Oregon? I don't like Oregon at all.
I just like the way they play with Mario Cristobal. I think they do a good job. And they also, if you want to talk about, comparable losses, comparable wins, they were able to knock off Ohio State. So it's one of those things that it was possible, but then they kind of went in the tank. Cincy, they're in position now. The committee needs to put them in. Like, they can't deny Cincy again. They will, but they shouldn't.
I think Cincy's fine. I think they're okay. I think Ohio State would have a chance to move up. They're a good 2-loss team. I don't see Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss coming up. Baylor, no. Or Michigan State was another good team. They just had that really bad loss to Ohio State.
After Mel Tucker, the ink wasn't even dry on the contract.
Yeah.
You think they wanted to kind of put some white out on that? Oh my God, that's a whooping.
It's tough to say because you look around, right, and it's who's out there. Like, who are we gonna bring in here to be better than this guy? And if we lock him up now, we're not going to have to worry about somebody else coming in and taking him, right? You see what just happened with Brian Kelly, and we see what just happened with Lincoln Riley. So they have a guy that, he got blown out by Ohio State, but I mean they got 10 wins. He's definitely doing better the last couple of seasons. Like he seems to keep getting better and better, and they're attracting talent there. So he's doing a decent job recruiting. You just want to be in the mix when it comes down to it, right? It's like you want people to talk about you. Like, we're not talking about LSU this year, right?
No.
We're not talking about Wisconsin this year, right?
Nope.
We never talk about the Pac-12, so that doesn't even matter. But that's what you want to be. You want to be in this. You want to be in the conversation. And
we're not even talking about Clemson.
No, we're not. They're gone. Their reign of terror is over. It's wild. That's the thing that's fun about college football. It's like you have these runs, right? It's like when we were in high school, it was the U, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it was Ohio State, the Ohio State University, right? And then and for the last several years, it's been Alabama. But then Clemson came in, right? And then Oregon was in there, 10 years ago with Chip Kelly and crew. So and then let's not forget USC and Texas with Reggie Bush. Like, you go on these runs. So when I look at the college football landscape right now, we got Georgia, Michigan, Alabama, Cincy. The last couple of years, it's been all SEC, right? It's just been SEC after SEC team. So I'm hoping that this is the turning of the tide. I'm hoping that with Cincy in here and with maybe even Oklahoma State getting in and Notre Dame, hopefully we're getting a little bit of a changeover. It's great to see Georgia on top there, but the issue with Georgia is the last team they want to really see is Alabama, and that's the team they're going to have to face in the SEC championship game.
Well, the one team that they don't have to worry about seeing in the SEC title game is LSU, but they just got their guy. Ed Orgeron is out. Notre Dame's Brian Kelly is in. And Lincoln Riley, been denying rumors the entire time about possibly leaving Oklahoma for the NFL or leaving Oklahoma for LSU or any of these coaching vacancies. He took the job in USC. So, which signing is going to have a bigger impact?
I don't know. I guess I'm weird. I'm one of the few people that thinks this will have zero impact. I think both will have zero impact. I think it's just going to be a speed bump to just another season next year. I don't think Brian Kelly is better than Les Miles. I don't think Brian Kelly is better than Ed Orgeron. I don't think Lincoln Riley is going to be able to recruit players to play in the Pac-12, especially with Texas and Oklahoma moving to the SEC. I don't see how he's going to get players to come play in Southern California. The other part is last time I checked, neither of these guys has a national championship. Neither of these guys have done anything. In fact, Brian Kelly, every time he goes to the college football playoff, he gets blowed out. Blowed out. So I will say this about Lincoln Riley. I am impressed that he has 3 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. That's pretty impressive. So he does know offense. But when you go to a school like USC, you're going to have to break rules and you're going to have to recruit. And I don't know if he's going to be able to do that.
Well, he's already getting some of his players through the transfer portal. Yeah, right. So they're already working that back channel from Oklahoma to USC. So it's kind of like it's kind of happening already. So I don't know how that is going to impact the Pac-12. It may or may not. But Brian,
the other problem is with the Pac-12 is where's your competition, right? It's like, okay, well, Oregon's really the top guy, right?
Yeah.
They were the top. All right, so you beat Oregon. And then what happens if you lose to UCLA? What happens if you lose? Like, Herman Edwards is coaching Arizona State.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're not a team that seems to be making any kind of impact, but it's not going to be easy to go there and win games.
No. I mean, you still have Washington State. You still have teams that you can there's still teams that are going to be a struggle for you to beat. UCLA. UCLA is going to be a problem for you as well. If you're out there in Southern California, you also have to recruit directly against them. Cal as well. So, it remains to be seen what's going to happen, but Brian Kelly is in for a world of hurt. He's in for a world of fucking hurt. You went from Notre Dame, touchdown Jesus, gold helmets, wake up the echoes. We don't need a conference. We're Notre fucking Dame. We're the New York Yankees of college football. And now you're at just another program. Granted, a couple of years ago, they won a national title. But they had a pretty special damn player in Joe Burrow. Do you have anybody on that team even close to Joe Burrow? Not right now. And are you going to be able to recruit a guy as talented as Joe Burrow when you're going up against Texas and Alabama and Georgia? I doubt it.
And I felt like his reason was so, blasé. It's like, oh, I want to go win a national championship. Okay, so you're going to go into the division with Georgia and Nick Saban?
Right.
Like, what are you thinking?
Dude,
how is that going to help you win a national championship? Meanwhile, your team is 6 now, and I'm pretty sure that if you stayed there, they would have bumped you to 4 or 5, and you probably would be in the CFP. Listen, it was time for him to go anyway. He was there for 10 plus years. I think he's the all-time wins leader there now, but he didn't win anything while he was there. So good riddance, but you don't say you're going to go to LSU and win. That's not a guarantee at all. at all. And you're a northerner. You're not even from the South. Like, you're going up against Southerners, right? And you're going to have to go and recruit Southerners. I don't know if you're going to get people to come play for you.
No, the way he left was a black guy. The stories coming out about him are a black guy. So this will negatively impact his recruiting.
I just don't know how you're not gonna, let's be real, you're not gonna get the best athletes, right?
No way.
The best athletes going to Alabama, the second best athlete's going to Georgia, and the third best athlete might go to Texas or Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how you're gonna get people to go play for LSU. Like, Ed Orgeron was that guy, right? He was that Southern guy. Like, he's that guy. You can barely understand anything he's saying.
He was the guy from Waterboy.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Les Miles, I mean, let's be real. Les Miles was there for a while. Like, it took him time to get that program where it was. And even him, he took his lumps. So so we'll see what happens there. Avoid messy accidents. Get better stopping power with your brake pads. Callahan brake pads. You never know when you'll be driving in the road and there will be a truck tire that you need to avoid and save your family. Callahan Auto. We really care about what's under your hood.
The Baseball Hall of Fame finalists were announced, and on the ballot, you have guys like Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens in their last season. You have guys like Curt Schilling and Sammy Sosa. You also have David Ortiz on for the first time. You also have a bunch of
Alex Rodriguez.
You have Golden Age players like Dick Allen and Minnie Minoso and Jim Kant, Roger Maris, Gil Hodges, going to be voted on, right? You have guys like Billy Wagner in his 7th year. And newcomers like David Ortiz, A-Rod, and Mark Teixeira. Who do you see getting in? Or does anybody get in?
I mean, I was excited about this segment when we talked about it in the production meeting because, first of all, just so everybody knows, voters can vote for a maximum of 10 players. Players need 75% for election. Can't be 74.9. Has to be 75% for election. Players need 5% to remain on the ballot. Nobody got in last year. Just the 4th time that has happened since 1966. That is cool. Like, I like how baseball has, not everybody can get into this thing.
Yeah.
Here's my whole thing. You can't let the cheaters in, because if you let the cheaters in, then you got to let all the cheaters in. Right? You're gonna let in Roger Clemens. You're gonna let in Sammy Sosa. Okay, well then Mark McGwire is getting in. The Black Sox are getting in. Pete Rose is getting in. Everybody's getting in. All right. So you're not going down that road. So my answer, to be maybe a little surprised to you, is I don't think anybody should get in. I think Ortiz eventually gets in. David Ortiz eventually gets in because of how well he got along with the media, what he meant to the city of Boston, and he helped break the curse. I honestly don't think the other guys deserve to be in. I don't think they're going to get voted in. And then the other thing is this will eventually go on for players will get to vote, and that point, then maybe they'll be okay. But for now, I'm not in for it, man.
Of those guys, of the question mark guys, Schilling definitely no, Bonds definitely no, Clemens definitely no, A-Rod definitely no, Andy Pettitte doesn't have a shot. No offense to Andy Pettitte, we love you. Manny Ramirez, if Manny Ramirez didn't get popped, he would have been a surefire. I would have voted for Manny Ramirez, one of the best pure hitters I've ever seen. He couldn't do much of anything else, but man, he could fucking hit. And Poppy was named in the Mitchell report. That's the one thing.
Yeah.
So
he cheated.
He cheated. He's a cheater. But does all the goodwill erase the fact that he cheated? I I personally don't think so, but we're getting into.
I know you shot down Kurt Schilling, but he was the one guy last year that almost got in. He had 71.8% of the vote. It's not 75, but that's damn close. And he's also the guy that's been shooting this thing down, saying, I don't want to be in anymore. Like, F you guys. So that's really interesting that he has been very outspoken against the Hall of Fame, very outspoken against the media, very political guy, and he got almost 72% last year.
I think that number is going to go down, though. I really think that he is not doing himself any favors, and I think the old guard of writer will happily oblige him.
Yes.
So I think it's a pissing contest with Kurt Schilling, and he's going to lose. He's going to lose. The guys on the ballot, I mean, the only one that I would seriously consider moving up is Todd Helton. Like, I thought Todd Helton was a beast, but of the questionable guys, I'm with you. I wouldn't vote for any of them.
No.
Because then you're opening up Pandora's box. And I understand the argument of guys like Evan Roberts and guys who say that it's a museum, right? You're speaking to the history of baseball. So put in good, bad, and indifferent and make sure you tell the story of the game. So I can understand where you're coming from, but at the same time, I also don't want to reward those guys for cheating the game.
Right. And that's the whole thing. Is like everybody has different perspectives on what the Hall of Fame is about. To me, the Hall of Fame is the best players to ever play the game. That's what the Hall of Fame is. I feel like football has really been letting everybody in lately.
Mm-hmm.
Like they let in Megatron. I didn't think Megatron really needed. Where do you put Megatron's bust next to Jerry Rice? Like, come on, Jerry Rice set the standard for wide receiver. Same thing, like Joe Montana, Terry Bradshaw. You're not putting Rich Gannon in there.
No.
Right. So football has become more lenient in who they're letting in. Basketball too. Basketball's starting to let in everybody. Baseball's the one place where they do police and they do make sure, hey man, this isn't for everybody. This isn't the Hall of Really Good. It's the Hall of Fame. We are the best. We didn't disgrace the game. We didn't cheat to get where we are. But the truth of the matter is, and I really feel like this is eventually the chimes are going to change, and they're going to vote people in. Even football now, like people pass away, and then all of a sudden they go, how come that guy was never in the Hall of Fame? Then all of a sudden there's a mad vote to put somebody in because he passed away. It's just like, all right, I guess.
Yeah. But that's also with these committees too, right? You have the golden days, and then you have the early baseball committee, which has a lot of Negro League players who should be in the Hall of Fame as well. So
you can create another place for these guys. Yeah. And the other part is that most of these players are honored by the places they played, right? So like Yankee Stadium has the monuments, and then the other stadiums have maybe a museum within their stadium, and then there's also like rings of honors, or even there's College Baseball Hall of Fame. There are other places where we can honor this person. It doesn't have to be the Baseball Hall of Fame. They can be honored in other ways, in another building, in another wing, in another place. But to me, the Baseball Hall of Fame is for the best players to ever play the game. I don't want to see A-Rod in there. He's not one of the best players to ever play the game. At one time he was, but you lied. We don't know what the truth is. You made a mistake, and I don't think you should be punished for the rest of your life for making that mistake. But at the same time, we have to figure out what that middle ground is. And at this time, I don't know, because you were one of the best players in the game. Why you felt you needed to do this, take this stuff, and then lie about it is beyond me. Same thing with Barry Bonds. Like, dude, you were the best hitter. You were going to be the best hitter whether you took it or you didn't take it. But because you took it, other people started to take it. You put a black mark on baseball for like 20 years.
Well, that's the thing. We're on shifting ground right now because you have the guardians of the game, right? The
Joe Morgans, Joe Morgan types.
Yes, the people who have standards, right? Who aren't just looking at numbers and saying, he's a Hall of Famer, look at the statistics. You have to, I understand that Ty Cobb is in the Hall of Fame and he's a racist piece of shit. So I understand that. I get that. But you have the ability to keep the cheaters out. You have the ability to control who is and who is not in the Hall of Fame. So we're on shifting ground right now because older generations, they're doing their job. They're practicing their stewardship. Younger generations, guys younger than us, I don't think they get hung up on this, and especially even years years along the way. Like, are we just going to get highlight reel players in the Hall of Fame? It feels like that's the direction we're going in because we're on that shifting ground. And ultimately, it remains to be seen. But these guys, in this case, no way. If you've ever listened to a podcast and thought to yourself, hey, I can do this, then do I have the tools for you? If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. No specialty training, no specialty programs needed. Anchor will then distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. Plus, you can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. How cool is that? It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Go to anchor.fm and get started today. That's anchor.fm. What are you waiting for? Download the app. It's time for the mail route on the Fade Route. If you want to get featured, hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in those DMs at Fade Route Podcast on IG, or drop us a line on our Twitter page at Fade Route DNZ. All right, boys and girls, we have a full email box for you today. If you want to get featured, hit us up, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs on IG, Fade Route Podcast, or on Twitter at Fade Route DNZ. Our first email comes from Tyler in Santa Rosa, California, new to the show. Hey guys, love the show. Well, thank you. Steph Curry has been on fire so far this season. Can anyone surpass him for MVP?
He wasn't on fire last night. He couldn't hit anything. Worst shooting performance of his career. And they lost to the Suns, who are on a 17-game winning streak. How crazy is that? They're 18 and I think 2 or 18 and 3. Amazing. Well, barring injury and Clay not returning, yeah, I think he's a lock for it. He's averaging 27.8 points a game, up from his career. 5.7 rebounds a game, up from his career. His shooting percentage from 3 and from the field is down, but his free throw percentage is up. So, yeah, I don't see anybody knocking him off the top. In fact, I really believe the Warriors are going to win the title this year just because of how good he is, how good of a roster they have, and Klay Thompson's still going to come back.
It's an embarrassment of riches that they were able to put this team together, and Steph Curry is playing out of his mind for sure. Now, it is still early. There's a caveat. It is still early. So, comparable statistics, if you're just talking comparable statistics, you got to look at Kevin Durant. You definitely need to look at him. I'm not saying that, he's going to be there long term, but 28.6 points, 7.5 rebounds, 5.6 assists, 53.9 from the field. So impressive, definitely impressive, and matches up well with what Steph is doing. The team around him has been failing. The Nets are not doing as well as the Warriors, so That's definitely, something that you have to take into account, right? How do you define value? You take this guy off the team, and they're the drizzling shits. So Steph Curry is proving that he has added value to the Golden State Warriors. But another guy, are his numbers as gaudy as the other guys? No. But again, I'm gonna stay on this. Chris Paul, 14.5 points, 4 rebounds, 10 assists, 47.6%. He's guiding that team. He's doing what he needs to do. They were able to take that step, and they are having a stellar run right now. Again, it's very early on, but those are two guys that could definitely take the mantle. Absolutely, because things are going to even out. They're not going to be the Warriors are not going to be equatorially hot. The Nets will figure it out. The Suns will even out some as well. The cream will rise to the top, and I think it will be a 3-horse race. Steph Curry is a dynamic player, and I think that he should be the lead horse right now in this race, but it's a long year. It's definitely a long year, and those are two very worthy candidates that could catch him in the end. Email number 2 from Randolph in Brooklyn, friend of the show. What's up, Rand? Hey guys, the Yankees have been shut out of free agency so far. With Seager, Simeon, Verlander, and Scherzer gone, who do you see them signing, and what are they waiting for?
The short answer is I don't know. I was surprised they missed out on Scherzer. I was surprised they missed out on Verlander, and I was surprised they missed out on Seager. I thought Seager was the perfect player for them, right? He's a high-end offensive shortstop who bats lefty. I mean, that's huge. I'm worried they're going to go for Freeman, but imagine if the Red Sox got Freddie Freeman. That'd be pretty crazy too. But I'm actually hearing that the Yankees are trying to get Simmons, the shortstop, and they'll eventually sign Rizzo. I'd be shocked if this was the move the New York Yankees were waiting to make. I think Correa's out after the comments he made about Jeter. Maybe they're building up for a big trade, like maybe for Mike Trout or something crazy like that. You got to think he's got something brewing. But one of the things I was interested to read about was 62 players who signed their first pro contract with the Yankees appeared in a game last year. That was tied with St. Louis for the second most. So they have a decent farm. They're bringing up talent, but they're not developing them to play on the major league level and stay there for a long time. So the short answer is, man, I don't know.
Well, let's address the needs of the team, right? They need left-handed hitting.
Center fielder.
They need a starting center fielder.
Catcher.
Catcher.
First baseman.
Starting pitching. Right. And if
they needed 2, right? They needed 2. They got a 1. They needed 2.
They need starting pitching. They need 2 through 5. They need 2 through 5. The Yankees have not had a solid starting 5 since 1998, where 1 through 5 would dominate. But they have not had that since 1998. Let's be real here.
Sure, they had the highest payroll that year.
Well, more than likely. Absolutely. But if you look at the guys that are still available, they're not impressive. Like the Yankees lost out on Verlander. They lost out on Wainwright. They lost out on
Michael Wacha.
They lost out on Noah Syndergaard. They lost out on Robbie Ray. They lost out on Gausman. They lost out on Stroman.
Syndergaard.
Steven Matz. Max Scherzer. These are guys that they need. And Eduardo Rodriguez is going to pitch for the Tigers. He's going to be the ace of the Detroit fucking Tigers. He chose to go there. So, who's left on the market? Martin Perez? Willie Peralta? Big Mike? Michael Pineda? You're going to bring back Michael Pineda? I mean, the only thing that makes sense is that they're gearing up for some kind of trade. Is it Castillo from the Reds? Possibly. I don't know who else is on the market that they would be interested in. Charlie Morton already re-upped with the Braves. Another guy that would have been great. You're just looking for guys to fill out the rotation at this point. Charlie Morton would be perfect for that. Carlos Martinez? Like, okay, maybe Carlos Martinez. I don't know. The Yankees need so much help. I guarantee you this, though. Brett Gardner is going to be back next year. Just because he's got those pictures of Brian Cashman and God knows what. They need so much. I agree that they're targeting Andrelton Simmons. I've also heard them linked to Isaiah Kiner-Falefa from the Rangers, especially now that Seager is there and Simeon is there. He is now available. So I mean, we'll see.
I mean, they can't sign Trevor Story. That would be a joke.
No, Story would be a bad move. I don't like Trevor Story. I would call up Philly and see about Didi. I would see about a reunion. That's me. But, yeah, I'm not seeing any moves here that are exciting. I'm not seeing anything that really helps the team. There's a lot of also-rans right now. There's a lot of extras. There's a lot of, like, quadruple A and barely hanging on guys left. And there's nothing exciting. So the Yankees better hope that they get something, because you don't want to be the team left out in this game of musical chairs, especially once the clock strikes midnight and there's no season because the players have been locked out. I don't know. Maybe that's what they're waiting on. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. Who knows? Email number 3 from Pete in South Bend, Indiana. Oh, this should be interesting. With Brian Kelly heading to LSU, do you see Urban Meyer taking the Notre Dame job?
I think his head definitely raised up from his desk when he saw this come across the screen that, Brian Kelly was leaving Notre Dame. But Notre Dame still holds academics to a high standard, high regard. I don't think they're gonna let players that have off the field issues or players that can't keep their grades up play for Notre Dame. So for that reason, I don't think they're interested in Urban Meyer.
I agree. Notre Dame is still one of the schools where character matters. The whole Catholic versus convict thing. Granted, that was in the 80s, but they still kind of hold tight to that. And Urban Meyer does definitely have a reputation. It looks like Marcus Freeman is going to be the guy, at least on an interim basis through the bowl season. So that may be where they choose to go because of familiarity with the team, familiarity with the players, and an understanding of the Notre Dame culture. So if that's the way they want to go, that would be a fine way to go. Could they make a run at a guy like a Jim Harbaugh? Maybe, but I don't think Harbaugh would make that move. Could they get?
He's a Michigan guy. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. So, but the thing that helps Harbaugh in this case is that he beat Ohio State. Because if he didn't beat Ohio State, he might have been out on his ass. Because I think Michigan, they get tired of being beaten like a drum by Ohio State. So it's finally good for him to have one under his belt. Are you going to call a guy like Chip Kelly? Probably not. He doesn't fit how you run things. Mike Leach, no, definitely not. He's out there. So he wouldn't be that kind of thing. So, I mean, unless you get an old guard NFL coach, like that's the only other thing I could think of. Like, maybe I wouldn't even say Pete Carroll, because Pete Carroll doesn't fit South Bend, Indiana. He doesn't fit Notre Dame either. So, yeah, I mean, Urban Meyer doesn't fit in there, but it's a very unique situation in South Bend. And I think it's probably just better if they promote from within at this point. You might be sitting on, the next great coach. Why not? Give it a shot. You can find the Fade Route on Facebook now. Check out our Facebook page, The Fade Route with DNZ. It's a one-stop shop for everything we do. Content, link to the Fade store, all of our episodes, you name it, it is there. The Fade Route with DNZ on Facebook. The Fade Store presents the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award. All right, boys and girls, it is time for the Alleged Superstar of the Week Award. Time for us to award that ass. The poll is going up after the show. Go to our Twitter account at FadeRouteDNZ and vote your choice. D, do you know who won last week?
Actually, I don't know.
The Clapper, Jason Garrett, taking home that ass. Congratulations, Coach Garrett. Good for you. Mazel tov. Still can't get you a job, but good for you. So who are your nominees this week, D?
My first nominee for Alleged Superstar of the Week is Lamar Jackson. 20 for 32, 165 yards, 1 touchdown, 4 interceptions, 17 carries for 68 yards. Dude, that's rookie numbers. You were supposed to be the premier quarterback in the league. You played like trash last week. You are my Alleged Superstar of the Week, even though you won. Second is Brian Kelly, leaving Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, the Golden Domers, for LSU in the eye of the Tiger. Man, Notre Dame was on the verge of a playoff berth. All time, he's leader in wins. He averaged 9 wins for 10 plus years there. Brian Kelly, you are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. And last but not least, it pains me to say this, but Cam Newton. Oh, Mr. I am back. 5 for 21, 92 yards, 2 interceptions. Former MVP, former Heisman winner, former leader of the Carolina Panthers to the Super Bowl. You are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. What do you have, Z?
Well, a special honorable mention goes to Brendan Lemieux. You are not an alleged superstar, but
You're a biter.
You're a biter. You bit Brady Kachuk during a scrap.
The fucker's biting me. The fucker's biting me.
It's like, ah!
Are you biting me? What are you doing, man?
Brendan Lemieux, you deserve to be named, but you're an honorable mention because you're a fourth line guy. Get up to second line, and maybe you'll be an Alleged Superstar of the Week. For me, Jalen Hurts, 14 to 31, 129 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks in a loss to the Giants.
Sentiment fantasy points. Awful.
Exposed. We call that getting exposed. Jalen Hurts, you are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. Lincoln Riley. Deny. Ooh, USC. You, sir, are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. And last but not least, Matt Turner. For those of you who are uninitiated, the MLS Goalkeeper of the Year, starting goalkeeper for the U.S. men's national soccer team, giving up 5 straight penalty kick goals to a New York City FC squad without Golden Boot winner Tati Castellanos, and looking like a total chump in the process. How good is America if this guy is the starting goaltender for Team America? You, Matt Turner, are my Alleged Superstar of the Week. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made our case. The poll is going up at the end of the show. And for our nominees, do better, boys. Just do better. Your favorite podcast has its own merch line now. Go to teespring.com, type The Fade Store into the search bar, and have access to our sweatshirts, t-shirts, long sleeve shirts, tank tops, and much more on the way. That's teespring.com. Type in The Fade Store at the search bar and show your boys some love. Rep the Fade Route brand only at the Fade Store, only on teespring.com. Let's run the option and give you our picks for the week. All right, brother, it is the option for week 13. How'd you do last week?
Awful. I only got 6 games last week.
Yeah.
6 and 9.
It was a rough one. It was a rough one for sure. I went 7 and 8. So hopefully we can rebound this week and kind of right the ship a little bit here. Teams on a bye: Panthers, Browns, Packers, and Titans. So all you Aaron Rodgers starters, find somebody else. I'm just saying. Thursday night, 8:20, the 7-4 Cowboys at the New Orleans Saints. Taysom Hill starting for New Orleans.
Yeah, I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys.
How about them Cowboys? The Saints are worse than the Raiders. The Cowboys should win this game. Sunday, 1 o'clock, the 3-7 Giants travel to Miami to take on the 4-7 Dolphins.
Dolphins are winning games. I'm going with the Dolphins.
The Dolphins are winning some games. Logan Ryan is back. That should help the Giants secondary. I'm going to ride with the Giants on this one. I think we're going to see what Freddie Kitchens can do this week. Daniel Jones has a little bit of a strained neck, but he's going to give it a go. So, you know what? I have a good feeling about this. Let's roll with Big Blue this week. The 6-5 Colts at the 2-8 Texans.
Oh, I'm going with the Colts.
Jonathan Taylor cannot replicate what he did last week, but he's going to get damn close. I'm going with the Colts as well. The 5-5 Vikings at the 10-1 Lions.
Vikings.
Yeah, this is going to be closer than you think. Dalvin Cook is out, but Madison is a capable backup, and it's going to be the Justin Jefferson show. Vikings win. The 5-6 Eagles at the 2-8 Jets. Jets.
I'm going with Jets putting together a winning streak. I'm taking the Jets.
We win one tomorrow. It's called a winning streak.
It has happened before.
The Eagles did not impress last week. I'm just saying. Screw it. I'm going to roll with the Jets too. I was not impressed at all by the Philadelphia Eagles whatsoever. The 9-2 Cardinals at the 4-7 Bears.
Cardinals, I think they get their boys back. I think D-Hop comes back, and also Kyler Murray comes back.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. The Bears are swirling around the drain. The Cardinals, they'll be able to take care of business. 6-4 Chargers at the 6-4 Bengals.
Bengals. I mean, they put a hurt on Pittsburgh surprisingly last week. So yeah, I'm going with them.
I think we overrated the Chargers just a little bit. We overrated them. So I'm going with the Bengals. The Bengals can play. Joe Mixon, he is delivering the mail. And then you have the Chase connection with Joe Burrow. That's pretty darn good. 7-3 Bucks at the 4-6 Falcons.
I was tempted to take the Falcons here only because it's a divisional game, but I'm going to roll with the Bucks.
I'm going to roll with the Bucks too. Cordero Patterson did play last week, so that kind of threw a wrench into things, but Vita Vea is going to eat him alive if he tries to run up the middle. I'm taking the Bucks. The 2-8 Jaguars into the 4-5 Jaguars at Rams.
I don't know why I'm doing this, but I'm taking the Jaguars.
I know why you're taking the Jaguars. Because Matthew Stafford is playing like Detroit Matthew Stafford, and they are not looking good. They're not looking impressive at all. It's very tempting to take the Jaguars. I admire you going out on the limb. I'm close to going out. I'm not there yet.
What a disaster that would be. That would be hilarious.
Who's getting fired? You got to figure Raheem Morris. Raheem Morris is probably going to go. If they lose to the Jags, I'm going to roll with the Rams. I just don't. I'm not there yet. I'm getting there, but I'm not there yet. The 4-6 WFT at the 6-5 Raiders.
WFT.
This is a close one. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to go with the Raiders. I think they just have a little bit more in the tank, and they're going to get the job done. 425, the 7-3 Ravens at the 5-4-1 Steelers.
Ravens, especially after what we saw last weekend.
Oh boy. Like, hopefully Lamar Jackson doesn't come in with those 4 picks again, and somehow they managed to win. That's winning in spite of somebody right there. So nice work. Good work there, Ravens. I'm going to go with the Ravens too. I just don't like where the Steelers are headed right now. They're not trending in the right direction. 5-5 Niners at the 3-7 Seahawks.
Niners.
Goes without saying. The Seahawks are circling the drain. The Niners are peaking at the right time. Your Sunday night special. The 5-5 Broncos go into Arrowhead to take on the Chiefs.
Yeah, I got flex to the night game, so I'm gonna go with the Chiefs.
How about them Chiefs? 7-4. They're righting the ship. They are righting the ship. And the game of the week, right here. You heard it here first. 8:15 Monday night. 7-4 Pats at 7-4 Bills. This one is for the division.
This is for the division. This is for the number 1 overall seed in the AFC. I am going with the Bills. Patriots always have a tough time playing up in Buffalo.
I'm taking the Patriots. I don't like what I'm seeing from the Bills right now. You also lost Tre'Davious White for the season. So if they could get something going, they can exploit that. And you just gotta like the way Coach Belichick has this team going right now. Pats by a touchdown.
This has been the Fade Route with D and Z. Thanks for tuning in tonight. Catch our podcast Wednesday nights on Anchor, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Until next time, stay faded, everyone.
We'll talk to you next week. If you want to get in on the action, we want to hear from you. Hit us up at Fade Route Podcast on IG, faderoutemail@gmail.com, or slide in our DMs at Twitter at FadeRouteDNZ. Questions, comments, picks, segment suggestions, you name it. We want to hear from you. Get at us, in crowd.